What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be doing a little walk around of the 4runner because one of the biggest questions I always get asked is what suspension setup I have on the 4runner. So I really want to touch down on that for you guys. For anybody looking forward to lifting their 4runner, you guys can kind of get an idea of the blueprint that I have so that you guys can go ahead and move forward, maybe on your option or looking at other options that may compare to this, to getting your 4runner to look in this manner. Now, the really cool thing about Toyota is that a lot of this stuff is copy and paste. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of this same style shock will work on a Tacoma, a Tundra, and so on and so forth. Of course, with different sizing, but for the most part, staying pretty much the same. So with that being said, we're gonna start off with the front end where we have the extended travel 2.5 Icon shocks with the non-external resi. I didn't really feel like I needed the external reservoir because when I had it on the Tacoma, I didn't really do anything too crazy with it other than rock crawl, but oil doesn't really get too hot in that aspect. So with that being said, I got the travel numbers out of the non-resi so I could get the height and preload that I wanted, but I didn't have to spend all the money. Because this is an older vehicle, I didn't want to go full on out and get all the best components because it is a little bit older, and as it's older, you don't really need the best. But at the same time, we wanted something that was really good. So we went with a 2.5 extended travel Icon shocks. And for the upper control arm, we went with the Icon Delta joints because they could take a little bit more off-roading than the Uniballs can. As per the website, the Uniballs tend to wear out a little bit more than the Delta joints. I've had plenty of buddies with the Delta joints. This is my first time running it that have run it before, and they love them. They found that they never really had to service them even after a bunch of miles. You always want to service your components, but these require less maintenance. When it came down to the lower control arm and everything else on the suspension side, we pretty much kept it stock. Nothing really too crazy, but that's what we went with as far as the front shock and also your upper control arm. Now, when it comes down to the tires, that is definitely one of the other biggest questions that I always get. What size tires I have and what size rim / offset I've gone over and went with. And really what it comes down to is nothing really too crazy, but it is the biggest thing that a lot of people see first. And we went with the 35 by 12.5 by 17 Yokohama Geolandar MT because it's got a very aggressive setup, and the aggressive setup being that its tread just looks really beefy, and it also has outside tread to kind of grip on any type of rock that you might get caught up on, and it just makes it kind of look extended a little bit on the outside. Now, this tire has worked very well for me, and I've had no issues. This is the second time that I've run it. I had them on my Tacoma, and now I went with it on the 4runner, just really keeping that same aesthetic. And when it came down to the wheels, this is my second time owning this pair as well, which is the Stealth Custom Series F5 that comes in a 17 by 9.5 by -38. So if you look at other videos, you'll be able to tell that negative offset usually throws the wheel out a little bit more, and that's exactly what I was looking for without having to run a spacer, and the -38 offset really does that for you, and it does it very well. So I paired those two together, which would then cause us to rub, of course. It does rub with even the upgraded suspension, so I want to go over what we had to do in order to kind of get you to somewhat fit these in the best manner possible. So in this Toyota world, you start hearing that you're going to need to do a cap mount chop, CMC body mount chop, and all of that is very true, especially with this 4runner. So when it came down to the 4runner, I was, of course, rubbing on the cab mount chop or the cab mount itself, and what we're ending up doing is chopping it down, which I know there's very good videos out there you can go ahead and watch to see what you have to do in specific, but I did have to do that on this side in here so that I could get full turning radius. When it came down to cutting up the actual truck, I didn't do too much. I cut a little box or rectangle, as you may say, in order for the tire to clear and sneak by without rubbing there. And I also had to cut a little bit up front, unfortunately, but it wasn't too aggressive to where I would be messing around with the aesthetic of the truck itself or SUV. I know I'm gonna get flamed for that, but it's all good. Truck, SUV, I'm so used to saying truck, but you do need to shave down a little bit up top in order for you to be able to do that. I also have all the guts exposed on both fenders. I did take off the fender liners because unfortunately when you're out on the trail, you're losing about an inch or two of clearance. When that tire comes up, it's gonna rub pretty nasty on it, and it's really just a sound. But at the end of the day, when I had it on the Tacoma, I did everything I could to make it not make too much noise, and at the end of the day, really the solution is just taking it off without having to tub the whole fender there. So we ended up doing that, and that got me the clearance I have. Do I still rub till this day? Yes, but not as aggressive, and it's not really in a place where it makes me uncomfortable with my ride. So at the end of the day, we ended up doing that, and it got the job done, so we're good there. Now on the rear end, it's pretty simple, nothing really too crazy, but it does really matter when it comes down to the actual specific parts that you need to get this kind of style. And when it came down to the rear shock, we went with the 2.0 aluminum non-resi shock on this one, and it's just more affordable while still kind of keeping somewhat the same or better travel numbers. I wasn't going to be doing a lot of crawling with this one in specific like I did in my Tacoma, but at the end of the day, it's just really good to have something a little more upgraded so that you can go ahead and get a little bit plushier kind of movement in the rear end. And when it came down to the spring, that's where it really matters. And I think that's where unfortunately, a lot of people tend to skimp out on or may not just have the best knowledge. And that's going to be on your rear spring, going with a 3-inch spring. Now that's very, very important because a lot of kits want to throw a 2-inch, 2.5 inch, and the problem there being is that I totally understand that as a company you have to sell something that will not damage a vehicle, and if installed incorrectly with the shocks not raised up enough, it could make it look super weird and you're gonna hate your kit, when in reality you're just not being informed properly. So with the 3-inch lift, it's gonna raise that rear end a decent amount. Actually, the most you could probably get out of most kits without having to do any type of modifications to that rear diff. But with a 3-inch lift, I can also load this guy up for about, I want to say 600 pounds. Now that's just me going off of my head right now, and don't quote me on that, but I want to say this is 600 pounds on the rear end. So I could load it up a decent amount without any type of sag, but also getting the lift that I wanted. So the tires and wheels stay the same, of course, nothing really too crazy there. And when it came down to the rear end fender, I haven't chopped a thing. But have I seen and noticed some rubbing when it came down to off-roading? 100%, yeah. So it's not major to the point where my fenders are falling off and they're completely cooked and I'm like, man, I gotta change things up. But when we definitely have a little bit of flex happening in that rear end, I do hear it rub inside, which isn't really too crazy and it doesn't bother me too much. So with that, I don't think I want to ruin the aesthetic of a stock kind of looking SUV, so I kept it that way. But otherwise, that's pretty much just about it. I know I could do a lot more to kind of help my handling and all that, which we will go over in the future. Maybe I can show you guys an install video on that. But other than that, that has been pretty much it in regards to it. Nothing really too crazy, but a lot of people always ask me, hey, John, is this a staged kit? What stage did you get? What stage did you go with? And the answer is none. This is a kit that I've personally put together because of knowledge that I've gained from the Tacoma and just really in general having over all our vehicles or all the vehicles that I've had. And you really just kind of got to start looking all over the place and really choose and pick your battles on what you want. I really, really advocate for you knowing what you exactly want, whether it be a 3-inch lift, do we want to keep it minimal, maybe a 2-inch lift, maybe I don't want to go this big tire, and that'll all matter based off the kit. But the reason why I can't tell you guys a stage on the icon, because that's their biggest selling point, is because this was all put together by me. You won't find a kit, unfortunately. I believe I tried looking myself. Maybe I wasn't that good at looking, but I didn't find one with the 3-inch rear spring in there already. The prices go up and you don't really get the lift that you're looking for. So you can spend up to $4,000 or $5,000 and you're still at a 2.5, maybe a 3-inch lift, barely, skeeving by it. But at the end of the day, when going with all those prices, you put some weight on the back. Any type of vehicle for off-road enthusiasts, you'll notice that you'll get a little bit of a sag in the rear if you don't choose the proper components. So with that being said, I've gone camping. This thing was fully loaded to the brim with ice coolers and everything. I did not experience a sag or anything like that. And that's also with the tent and rack on it. We'll be going over other things here on the rig in the future, but for the time being, that's pretty much it. It's as simple as that. But with that being said, you do have to do your homework. You do have to look around for all your parts, depending on what you're going with, and not every kit is the same. So you want to make sure that you're looking all your numbers, make sure that you're looking at all your sizes and everything like that when it comes down to it, so that way you can make the best choice possible. Till then, hopefully this hasn't dragged on too long, but please make sure to subscribe, comment to all the videos that I've had. If you go to the past, you'll be able to see all my Tacoma adventures, which now I plan to do with this 4runner. With the type of work that I have now, I do have a little more time to do more adventures, so we may be moving on to other rigs and showing you guys different perspectives as well. Maybe another truck. We don't know, but we're figuring that out as we go. So please make sure to subscribe, comment, like the video. And if you comment, let me know what you guys want to see, different things. That always gives me a new point of view on maybe what I should do next. So till next time, see you guys soon.